everybody, it's Gail, and today we have this hat, and it is on a pot so that it will shape nicely, and for another reason, which we'll get to in just a moment, let's talk about the hat really quick. This hat comes to us from the 1930s, and it does require millinery wire around the brim here. I use floral wire because I'm still not entirely sure how to use millinery wire. I mean, I've read up on it some. I understand the process of how to use it, but I don't have any in the house, and you have to have little end caps, and the floral wire will get me where I need to be for now, and we can up my game to millinery wire at a different point. All right, you know what I mean? So anyway, this is a 1930s little bowler hat, and it is worked top down, and then you just work out for the brim. And then for the bow, you make a just a long strip that you wrap it around. So you're supposed to wrap it around and then tie it and then sew it into place. So that's one of the other reasons it's on the pot, is because I knew that this hat shape and hat height were going to work with using the pot as basically the fancy word for hat shaper that they use when like you actually make hats for a living. And so it's sized out exactly how it's supposed to be. Now the decorative piece here got a little long on me because I worked about 2 inches, I measured, I worked another 2 inches, I measured, I said, oh yeah, it's shaping up fine, and then I didn't actually check myself before I went back and started like actually working on the rows. So it's definitely longer than it should be, but I'm going to try to do like a ribbon candy sort of bow, where I pull back a loop and attach that to the band, and then another loop that's a little bit shorter that will attach, etc., and have a slightly more festoonery sort of hat, if you will. So what I need to do now that I've actually filmed this part where I show you this is get the band sewn into place as much as I can before I start working on what the bow is going to look like. And the hat itself, the hat and the band are both made of sport weight yarn, and you use a 2.75 millimeter hook. That's a C hook. I believe they refer to it as a US size 2, and my gauge worked out perfectly. I worked it to gauge, and so the thing to know is that there comes a point after you've worked a few rounds, it tells you to keep increasing rounds evenly until you have a 6-inch circumference around the top of the hat. Not circumference. The other one. Diameter. Thank you, honey. A 6-inch diameter around the top of the hat. And from there, you just work 2 inches even. So I'm going to tell you, because with having worked to gauge, you need to do 18 rounds total to get to 6 inches in diameter, or at least get to 18 rounds and measure and make sure you're around that. And then you can add, if you need to, you can frog a round or two if you need to, if your gauge has gotten a little wider. But yeah, 6 inches diameter, 2 inches tall, and then brim increases. And then the stripe, or the bow, or whatever we're calling it. I don't know. So I'm going to go and do the sewing bit and the fiddly bit to turn it into a hat, and then I'm actually going to try to pin it on the way that it's worn in the photo, because this was the 1930s, so hats were sometimes more fascinator than hat, and this is definitely more fascinator than hat. Like, this is not... I've put it on, and it kind of tries to sit on my head, but what it wants to do is be popped up and off to the side looking very fancy. So I'm going to go work on that. I will see you in a few minutes. All right, we are back. It's all done. It's very cute. So instead of doing the sort of stacked bow like I was thinking about, I tried to do it, and it just got really clunky very, very easily. And so I decided I would just see what would happen if I tied it in a regular bow, and it's very cute. I like it a lot. So that worked. It is fully sewn on. I did sew the top and the bottom. I have to always stop myself from stopping early on something like that because trying to do things right, trying to do it right. So anyway, let's talk about how to wear this because it is a 1930s hat. Let me just take my glasses off here. And if you look at the pattern photo, you'll see that it is worn over one eye in a very, not quite that far, not quite Bob Fosse-esque, but not too far from it. So honestly, probably about like that, although with my glasses on, I would be wearing a little higher. But hold on. There we go. More like that. There we go. And you'll notice I have a little nubbin at the top here when it's supposed to lie flat. I'm going to fix that because you see that I pushed it down and it kind of flattened on its own. I'm going to put it back on the pan that I was using to block it, get it nice and flat, and then do some fabric stiffener just over the top. Not along the sides, just the top. And then put something heavy on top of it so that it makes it nice and flat on the top. And that should fix that problem. Now, you might be wondering, how do you wear a hat like this without it falling off your head? And I know that answer because I actually found a video from Evelyn Woods, who is still here on YouTube doing content about vintage fashion and that kind of stuff. I'll link to her channel down in the basement for you. And she had a video from ages ago about how you wear hats at the angles they are meant to be worn when they are vintage hats. And so the answer is I can put an elastic band on the hat and it will tuck under the back of my hair, kind of like just any other headband, like a full head headband. Bobby pins could work. I don't have enough hair right now for a hat pin because a hat pin needs to go through hair that is secured because that's how it sticks in. And then you could also just put a hair comb in. Anyway, I'll link you to that video. It was real nice because it was very simple. And I really appreciated that. It was just, here's the ways you do these things. So I'll figure it out when I wear it and figure out what works best for me. Because that's really what it is when you're wearing vintage pieces. It's like, how does it work best for you? Do you enjoy the process of wearing all of the undergarments? Do you not? I don't. But with a hat like this, it's which thing that I stick into my hair is going to be the most comfortable. So that is the hat. I do have a little bit of a bump here from the join at the end where the wire came together. But if you're that close and noticing that and wanting to say it to me, you're close enough to kick in the shin. So kind of my mantra for stuff like that. Yeah, so there you go. Adorable little 1930s hat. Sport weight yarn. Easy to make. I will have a link to the pattern down in the basement. The store that sells this pattern is one of my favorites to shop through, so I give it a big look over. Lots of crochet, also knitting, sewing patterns, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. All right, so if you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff, and I will see you when I see you. Ooh, actually that might be the winner.